Hello everybody, I'm the Lazy Kiwi and welcome to 100 Days as a Pirate in Minecraft. We will be doing things like sailing across the open oceans, traveling through dangerous waters, fighting all different types of mobs, taming a heck ton of animals because, you know, it's me, and even trading with mermaids. There's gonna be a lot happening in this video. As you can tell by the timestamp at the bottom of this, it's gonna be a long one, so buckle up boys, we are in for a doozy with this one. Grab yourself a drink, maybe something to snack on, and remember to like and subscribe because this took ages to make. The main reason I wanted to do a pirate 100 days is because I have mild thalassophobia. I am terrified of deep dark waters. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies, and I kind of want to face that fear a little bit with Minecraft. So yeah, if you guys are interested in doing this yourself, maybe even just doing something pirate-like, all of the mods that I will be using for this is linked in the description below, so if you're interested in those, check down the links. And yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into this video. Starting off this 100 days, we started on day 0, and of course started with getting wood to make all of our little tools and stuff. However, I did take note of the perfect spawn we got. We ended up in a jungle right near the ocean, and in my opinion, jungle very much piratey. The ocean, we definitely need one of those if we're gonna be a pirate. So of course we got our wood, I got some stone, and I did end up making a few stone tools. Immediately after that, I did make a little boat because right near me there was a little pirate ship, and on these ships you can either get villagers or mobs and stuff, and this time I got lucky because it was only villagers, so I had to go in here and see what I can loot from them, and boy did I get lucky. We got some diamonds, emeralds, a whole bunch of things, the books as well, and most importantly, a whole lot of lanterns. After looting that entire ship, I did head over to this tower I saw in the distance, and boy oh boy, I love these towers as well. I did go all the way to the top, and as soon as I reached it, night has fallen, so I did take a little sleepy at the top of the tower. And with that, we officially have day 1. I started this day off by looting the entire tower, taking only what I really thought that I needed, as we had little to no space left. But then I went on my merry way, checking my map and making sure I was headed to a big open ocean because I was in search of a base, but I didn't have to travel too far. I did, however, get jump scared by a whale. It was like legitimately heart attack material, although the little buddy was really cute, and I decided to base right near here. So I plopped down all of my goods and went to bed for the day. The next day, I realized how desperately I needed some food, and as bad as I felt, I did kill a crab to get a little bit of meat. And afterward, I did head out on my boat again, as I had to make sure this was an open ocean because of course we kind of need that for a pirate let's play, and as far as I could see it definitely looked like one, so that's wonderful. But I did head back pretty soon after to go and plant some sugarcane because we need that desperately. I also gathered up some wood, of course, and then straight afterwards I started to set up a little farm for some food because yeah, I was running really low on food at this point. On the start of day 3, I crafted myself some wooden armor just to feel a little bit safer, and straight afterward I started fishing because I had no food. I did catch a few fish here and there, not many that I could eat though, so the one that I could eat, I immediately started to grill that bad boy up. And when I was done, I was so excited to finally eat something. But that didn't last very long now, did it? Because a bird decided to steal my only piece of fish that I could actually eat. I had had enough. It was time to see if I can go mining. My goal was to find a mine through strip mining. So I went down, tried my luck, but it was definitely not as good as I had hoped. I was finding very little ore. I did, however, find a heck ton of clay, and I was mining throughout the entire night, and I really was not very lucky at all. I did not find a mine. So on the start of day 4, I headed back up. My farm is coming along really slowly, and on top of that, I really needed coal. Instead of trying to strip mine, I wanted to go and try my luck at a tower I spotted nearby. Hopping on my little boat and sailing all the way there, when all of a sudden, I was attacked, assaulted by a bone. A bone, please, what do you mean? Luckily, this absolute weirdo tried to get onto the land the entire time, so he was pretty easy to take out, although it was a little bit scary, I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, this tower was the exact same as the one we had looted earlier, but still, there was loot. So I got up in there and took everything that I possibly could, and by the time I was done, it was night, so again, we spent the night at this tower. The next day, I headed all the way back home and started cooking some kelp, and that was for now my best bet for food. However, when looking through the loot that I have gotten, I got an aqua affinity book. I didn't even know this is a thing, but I guess it's in one of the mods that I have. But for the time being, I couldn't really do anything with that, so instead I went to bone meal some of my wheat to make my very first piece of bread, eating it immediately so no bird could. It was seriously time to start thinking about a base, however, and I don't want this to be the biggest base ever because I want to focus more on exploring the oceans and building a boat and whatnot. However, I do still want a little base of operations where I can always go back to and store all of my goodies at. So I, for the next few days, started gathering some wood, and I got all types of wood. I got jungle wood, which was the easiest to get as I live right near a jungle. We got some dark oak wood as well, which is one of my personal favorite woods. And we got some birch. But when I was in the birch forest, not only did I see a bunch of cute animals, I also saw this potentially really nice little mining area. So day 8, after discovering this mining area and of course getting a bunch of wood, I headed back home. And at the start of day 9, I gathered up a few materials and headed straight to the little mining area. I spent the whole entire day getting a few things, but unfortunately, I wasn't too lucky. So I decided to go back and look for a mine closer to home, but that could wait for another day. Because at the dawn of day 10, I had had enough of sleeping in the open, and base building starts today. I did mess up quite a bit. I placed everything way too far, so I broke down absolutely everything and rebuilt it closer to the ocean. But so I went on with the building. My whole idea for this whole build is to be very raggedy and small and give kind of thief/piratey vibes, if that makes any sense at all. So I kept on building and building. I added in a bunch of different, mostly jungle wood everywhere to make a foundation, and then another little foundation leading all the way down to the water and into into this cute little dock area. I added fences all around the area to make it a lot more secure, adding logs here and there as well for more support. And then came the scariest part. If you know me, you know I have slight thalassophobia, so this whole thing is more or less for me to face my fears a little bit because the ocean horrifies me. Deep dark water, not a fan. So this whole thing of me having to go into the water to place these logs, it was horrifying. But alas, I did complete the job because I will not be a wussy, okay? I'm gonna do this. And as I said, I do want this build to be very small because I'm not gonna be doing a lot building-wise, and I'm not gonna really be in this build for too much. At least that's the goal. I do want to be more in the ocean than in a build, though I do still want it to be very, very cozy and something I would want to come back to after a long time at sea. So we just built up this little house and kept going at it until finally we were done with the base structure. Of course, every build needs a little bit of pizzazz, so I gathered up a bunch of leaves and vines and some bamboo to make the area a lot prettier because just the base build is ugly, I'm not gonna lie. I added some leaves onto the roof, I added some leaves onto the pillars at the bottom, a bunch of bamboo everywhere as well, and of course, a heck ton of sea pickles because not only do they add a light, they are so cute. And all of this work went all the way to day 16. On this day, I took a step back, looked at my beautiful build, and by the time I was done with everything, my farm was fully grown. So I went along and just destroyed all of it to expand it a lot because of course we got more seeds. So I replanted what I had, then went to gather some dirt and replant all of my little seeds. And with that, the main base build was done. We had no furniture yet, but that can come at a later time. First though, we need cows. So day 17, I started building a fence area where I could put some cows in. However, I need to get the cows as well, so I headed over the waters all the way to the birch forest where I had spotted some cows earlier when I was mining. Though it was a struggle to lead them all the way up onto the land and back to the boat, I did manage to get one all the way there. By the time I was done, night was starting to fall, and that's when I realized this mother flipping cow can't get into the boat. I don't know if it's his big booty or something, but I had to get back home because it was already night. Mobs were starting to spawn and I am scared. I was so horrified, okay? So I went back and immediately jumped into bed, and the next day we really needed to fix our cow problem. So instead of doing that, I fought a bunch of spiders that had spawned underneath my build. I am happy about this though because I really do need string for some of the materials that I need to build a boat with. And instead of doing anything else productive, I decided to decorate a little bit more because why wouldn't I? Adding a few jungle trapdoors here and there to make everything look a little bit more raggedy and broken down. And yeah, that's pretty much all I did this day. The next day, I set out on foot to hopefully find a cow much closer to our base, and when I came across a little piece of wood, I knew that we had stumbled upon a buried ship. So I immediately started digging until finally I found the treasure chest, and I have looted it, of course, because we did get quite a few really nice things in this chest. And a little ways away, there was this little bandit camp. I spotted Haydale, so of course I headed over there immediately. I didn't spot any danger, so I looted their chest, which was lovely. grabbed all of their hay bales and left immediately, leaving behind a poor villager guy, which we might maybe save in the future. I don't know. He seemed lonely and sad, but he was safer in there than he is out here with me. Afterward, I decided to try my luck with a little monkey. I wanted to tame one, so I grabbed my bananas, ran over to one, and luckily, for once, my luck had changed. We tamed this monkey with one singular banana. His name is now George, and he can sit on my back. This is the best thing that has ever happened to me ever. For the rest of the day, as the sun was setting, I just had a jolly good time with George, just on the porch, watching the sun set behind us. It was beautiful. We are on day 20. We're almost a quarter of the way through, and I still don't have a boat, and I still don't have cows. My solution for this was to get a boat before we get cows, so that I can put the cows on that boat. However, to make this happen, I do need string, so I decided to wait until nightfall to get some spiders to spawn. In the meantime, I wanted to make the cow pen a little bit prettier, so I got some dirt to make a little dirt road, just so that we can get grass over to that area. So that will take some time, but hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll have grass there. I also added some wood to the ground to make this pretty little path leading all the way to the cow pen. And when I was done, might I say, it all looked quite pretty. And then I kind of want to hit myself for this one because I'm so mad at myself. I forgot that I wanted to wait for spiders. So I slept. I slept through the night that I was supposed to stay awake to find spiders, to finally progress. And I didn't. I went to bed. What a way to end off day 20. Day 21, I decided to test build a ship without any floaters, so I built a little ship helm and set off to build my little boat. And bear in mind, this boat is gonna be extremely ugly. But what do you know, as soon as I set on the helm and set this as a ship, it actually worked. It stayed afloat. Granted, it was slow as heck. I set off to the island to go and get my cows because I thought that maybe with this floatable boat, we will be able to take the cows onto this boat and head home. So once I reached the island, I got on my little weeds and I went to lure the cows back to the boat. And when I say I struggled to get a cow onto this boat, I mean, I struggled. It was nighttime and I wasn't even finished. I didn't have any cows on my boat just yet, so I decided to modify the boat a little bit to see if I can fit one of the cows on, and this took an extremely long time. It took me so long to get one of these cows onto the boat, but luckily we got one of them on. So I decided to just take one of them because, you know, it was nighttime already. When I got back home, I decided to just leave the cow on the boat while I go fight some mobs. So I went to get George to help me, and sure as heck, it worked. George is a lean, mean, rock-throwing monkey machine, okay? This little guy killed mobs so easily for me. I didn't even have to get close to them. The next day, however, I decided to lure my cow into the pen with yet another struggle. I swear, these cows have it out for me. They hate me or something. I don't know what the heck is going on with them, but my days, this also took ages to do. But as soon as I got the cow in the pen, I decided to head off on my little boat to go and find the wifey. So on the way to the Birch Island, I literally just drove my boat over to the cow and scooped him up. It was so easy this time, which I was so surprised about because I thought it was gonna be so hard. But no, I literally just scooped him on the boat, carried my wheat so that it would try to follow me, and headed back home. When we got back, I led her into the pen immediately, and once she was in there, I bred them up and they had a beautiful little baby. And with that, the day had ended, so I headed off to bed. On this day, I decided to tend to my crops with George alongside with me when I noticed a crow circling us continuously. I was wondering what it was doing, so I decided to throw a few seeds into the distance to see if he would eat them, and sure enough, he did. So every once in a while, I would throw a few seeds into the distance just to see him eat it because it was so cute. But unfortunately, this didn't tame him, so I decided to go back into my house to read up a little bit about them because I needed a crow. Long story short, they are awesome, but you can only tame them with pumpkin seeds. When they're not tamed, they do eat your crops, so I do need to get pumpkins to scare them away as well. But once we go out and set off on our journey, I'm definitely gonna find pumpkin seeds to find myself a little crow pet. I did also check the recipe for floaters, and turns out they're heckin' easy to make. I already had everything I needed for them, so I did go ahead and craft some of those so that I can start making a boat the next day. And then I grabbed George. For the rest of the day, we just stood around admiring our new cows. Now, unfortunately, from day 24 to 35, my video got corrupted. It did not record anything at all besides one singular image. So the next few days will be creative recreations of what had happened. So day 24 to 29, I spent all of these days simply just building my boat. And I have to admit, it turned out really nice. Day 29, however, when the boat was finally fully completed, I decided to take it for a little spin. Simply just going in a circle, and heck was this thing slow as well. But I do have to get quite a few things to make the thing required to let the boats go faster. But in the meantime, I decided to kill one singular cow because I needed the leather to craft this special crafting table to make furniture. And day 30 to 31 was fully spent just decorating the interior of my house. So of course I can't show you like the whole process of that because it's already decorated. So instead, here's what it just looks like on the inside of the house now. A little tour for all of you guys, and honestly, I absolutely adore it. I think it turned out so cute and cozy. Let me know what you guys think about it, of course. Day 32, I made sure that my house was set on the map so that I can see it, because I obviously didn't want to lose my house location. And then we set sail for the very first time into the open oceans. It sure took a good long while to actually get out of familiar territory. I am flying here, but I did all of this on my boat, okay? But soon I spotted quite a few boats in the distance. Some of them villager boats, some of them mob boats, and obviously I had to loot them. So I went off to the nearest villager ship to loot them immediately. I also decided to grab quite a few wool from here to make some sails for my own ship. You guys already saw those on my real ship, but this is where I got the wool if you were wondering. But I was not done looting yet. I went over and looted a bunch of the other ships in the distance as well. After looting a few of those, I had the brilliant idea to lure these zombies off of the zombie ship into the water because they can't swim. So if all of them just get off of the boat and they drown, I can simply just loot it very easily. And for the next 2 days, I also just spent sailing around looting a bunch of ships until eventually I found this one near the islands, looted it as well, and spent the night here. When the next morning, I saw a few buildings in the distance, and that's where we're back to the normal recording. So this is where I saw a tiny little floating house thing and decided to jump off to check it out. Granted, I was a little scared because I've obviously never seen anything like this before, but I did see a bunch of hay bales, so obviously I needed to grab those. And that's when I saw a chicken. I wanted to lead it onto the boat boat, which was a very, very big struggle. And somehow he just exploded. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, not at all. It's not like I squashed him or anything like that. Like, what? We did, however, get an egg from him. The only problem is it's not a hatchable one, I think, at least. So no chickens for us in the meantime. But I then went on to loot this entire building, and it was filled with a bunch of different food. So I don't think I'm gonna struggle with food for a very long time again. Before I left, I spotted a mermaid in the water, which I then tried to give some fish, and what would you know? It actually worked. My dude took all of my fish and gave me a bunch of these little like chest things. So we'll definitely be opening those up later. But for now, I was making my way to yet another pirate ship, which of course I also looted this ship, and by the time I was done, night had fallen, so I slept. Day 37, it was time to head back home. I constantly checked my map to make sure I was headed in the right direction, and the ocean views were so beautiful. I loved seeing fish and everything in the water as I drove on by, sailed on by. But as the sun was setting, I saw my base on the horizon, right there ready for me to come home, and my baby George waiting for me on the inside. It was so good to see George again. I love him so much. The moment I saw him, I gave him a little dancey dance. It was just such a lovely little moment. But I then fought a few spiders and went to check on the loot that I got from the mermaids. So I opened every single one of them up, and let me tell you, it was extremely underwhelming. Like, I was honestly expecting more, but at least we got glowberries, which was the best win out of all of these for me. But it was still a very fun experience, so I decided to add my glowberries to my base. After that, I decided to go fishing a little while because I really wanted to fish up some loot. That's when I learned that I can craft a better fishing rod, so that's exactly what I went to do right before heading off to bed. I spent the entire morning of day 39 fishing away when all of a sudden I saw a flying mermaid in the distance, and as far as I know, that's not normal. They don't usually fly. Obviously, I thought I had to go and check it out because how could I not? So I ran all the way over there, but by the time I had reached the location that I saw it, it was gone with the wind. So instead of doing any more fishing, I decided that my base was ugly and I had to start cleaning it up a little bit because everything looked a little bit horrendous. So I got rid of the sugarcane, as I know I don't need them given that I have so many books from looting. I also got rid of the ugly old boat we used to get our cows. Loving memories, but be gone, okay? And last but not least, I decided to get rid of all of the trees because they're pretty much just an eyesore. Which, don't get me wrong, this is much easier said than done. It took quite a while to get rid of all of the trees. So much so that I spent the rest of day 40 also cleaning up the rest of the trees that I couldn't the previous day. When I was finally done, however, I decided to build a little pen area where I can hatch my turtle eggs because I really want them to grow up and be safe. And I hope this works, but only time will tell. So I went off to bed once again. Since a bunch of days didn't record, I decided to give you guys a little peek into the loot chest that I have. So that's everything that we got, including the food as well. However, this day I decided that it was a pretty good time to start building my enchanting area. So I went along to chop down a huge jungle tree. This pretty much took me the entire day. But the next few days, day 42 to 47, I spent building the enchanting area, starting off with a doorway in my bedroom leading to a little bridge. Now, don't get me wrong, this is pretty impractical because I do have to go up into my room and then across the bridge to get to the area every single time I want to use it. But it's gonna to look pretty and piratey, okay? So I started building up my foundations and everything. And let me tell you, this took quite a long time. Obviously, there were a few times I had to use my epic Minecraft gamer skills to bucket clutch. You don't have to praise me for my absolute awesomeness, okay? I added in the flooring to my main foundation for my enchanting area, and that's when, you know, the bridge that I want to build would come really in handy. So instead of putting it off any longer, I decided to just go ahead and build it. And don't get me wrong, it does look a little bit wonky from the side, but you know, maybe that adds a bit more to the piratiness of everything. I then added in some supports to my beam platform thing, just to make it look a little bit more supported, obviously. And I think this also turned out really pretty, so I am not complaining. Once that was done, I crafted up a few books just to get the layout out onto the platform so that I can see where everything has to go. So I started on my roof. I wanted this to be a pretty rounded roof, not very like symmetrical and kind of raggedy looking, I would say. And I actually used mangrove slabs for the roof because I wanted to add a little pop of color, as I feel like the whole build was kind of just lacking in the color department. Once the roof area was done, however, I started on a ladder going up through the roof, as I really wanted kind of like a lookout point in this house, somewhere I can check the horizon for oncoming pirate ships. Obviously that's never gonna happen, this is Minecraft, but just in case, I can now look into the horizon. And I obviously wanted this to have a pretty piratey feel to it as well, so I wanted to add a flagpole all the way on top. Luckily, we had a little bit of extra wool from our looting, so that's how I got to building this beautiful little flag. I don't know if it looks great, but I think it does. Like, to me at least, it looks really pretty. But we were obviously not done with this. There was still a lot of decorating that I needed to do, because no build of mine is done without the final touches of the foliage. So I placed around a little bit of moss here and there. We also placed some bamboo around the build, as well as planted a few trees and leaves, of course. Many leaves on the roof, on the sides of the build. Everywhere we could possibly place leaves, we did. Because again, this is a pirate build. It's going to be overgrown and old looking. And then we got onto the final touches. I added in some fencing around the main area so that we can just walk around without worrying about dying. We then got some decorative little pieces, some floating papers, some books for here and there to just throw around, and of course some lighting for this area as it was very dark. I also placed a few skulls to the top of the watch point because I feel like that's kind of creepy and I like the vibe. But just like that, this area was finally completed. I decided that now that all of that was done, it was time to craft up my very first diamond pickaxe and axe. So I grabbed my diamonds out of my ship and went to craft those. The only thing we still needed for our enchanting area was the enchanting table, so of course I had to go and get some obsidian. So I went over to the nearest lava pool that I saw previously and started digging my obsidian. Let me tell you, this takes a really freaking long time, and of course, we had to lose one in the meantime to the lava itself, because that's such a noob thing to do. But I got what I needed and I headed back, crafting the enchanting table and setting it up. And guess what? It worked perfectly. We could reach all the way to level 30. And in the end, it all looked so pretty with the trees that grew in the back, all of the overgrown leaves and stuff. I absolutely adored adored this build, and honestly, it might be small, but I think it's so pretty. But again, as always, let me know what you think. The last thing I wanted to do on this day was to remove the dirt road that I had made to the cow pen, as all of the grass has finally grown in, and now I can get rid of this horrendous sight. And I know I said that was the very last thing I wanted to do, but there was one more thing, and it was very important, as I decided to use my one and only name tag to finally give George an official name. Look at how happy we are, my little baby. Day 49, I decided to make the area around my turtle eggs a little bit bigger, as they didn't seem to be hatching. One of them was cracked a little bit and the other one was untouched, and I didn't know if it was because they were too close together or if maybe the area around them wasn't big enough. Granted, it's my first time trying to hatch these eggs, so I don't really know how to do it. But after I had enhanced that area just a little bit, I decided it was time to grab all of the iron I had gotten on my looting chips to go ahead and make the thing that I need to have a lot faster ships, because honestly it is such a pain to sail around so slowly. So after quite a bit of struggle getting all of the resources, all of the stone, all of the iron, smelting all of the stone to get normal stone and smooth stone, I finally had enough materials to craft everything I needed for the ship furnace. So that is exactly what I ended up doing. I also afterward crafted 2 buckets to put in lava, because that's gonna be the most efficient fuel source, and then crafted myself a bit of iron armor as well, finally upgrading from the wood. I've had wood armor this entire time. I started off day 50 by killing a few spiders near my house, and then straight after I decided that it would be a good idea to, instead of walking like a normal person, I would take my boat to go and get lava that was really close to my house. Did this take significantly longer? Probably, but was it worth it? Yeah, probably not, but it was fun. It was fun. After gathering up 2 buckets, I went back to say goodbye to George, because I was about to go and add the lava buckets to my boat to see if it would go faster. And sure enough, it didn't. It felt exactly the same. But that's okay. I set off into the horizon, sailing far into the night, which was actually pretty scary, given that along the shores there was so many mobs spawning one after the other. It was genuinely horrifying to see. But eventually, as the sun was starting to rise, I came upon 2 more pirate ships that I have not yet looted in the past. So day 51, I looted the first ship, getting a few diamonds, a few candles, some more books, and other items, and then I went to loot the other ship. This is when I decided to take on my most challenging feat yet: a witch's ship. I crafted myself a bow and took my few little arrows, going to try and shoot, hitting one of them but missing the other, and realizing that I was so low on arrows. So instead, I decided to try my potions of harming on them, because I had a few of those laying around. And this is where the battle began. I tried my hardest, quickly running out of arrows and being hit multiple times by poisoning potions, trying to eat my bread, but it just wasn't enough to get my health up again, as I was constantly hit with these poison potions. So I thought that my best bet would be to possibly just lure them off the boat, as I had no milk. I noticed that there was already 2 witches that had fallen into the water, so I went to the ship and destroyed the spawners. And there were no other witches on the ship, which is crazy. Like, only 2 witches defending this big old ship. Okay. Anyway, I went on to loot everything that was in this ship, but midway through, I did end up just going to bed and continued looting the next day. And this ship was filled up to the brim with a bunch of different potions, as well as potion crafting materials like spider's eyes and rabbit's feet, magma, and so on and so forth. I took it all and placed it into my chest, filling them up almost completely. I also, of course, had to take 2 of their banners to celebrate my success in obviously defeating these witches, not being a coward and having them jump ship and then getting all of their loot, you know. I was such a hero. Afterward, I decided that I had had enough of looting ships and it was time to head back home once again. And this time, again, just as the sun was setting, I saw my house on the horizon and I was so happy to finally make it back just as night has fallen, going to bed with my beloved George by my feet. Day 53, I started the day off by chopping another ginormous jungle tree and then went off to start building a foundation for something that I want to build, but this took an extremely long time because of the big ass tree, so I didn't have a lot of time on this day, so this is literally all that I did. But for the next few days, day 54 to 57, I continued building this foundation and then started building up a structure on top because I really needed a new storage space. And this time, instead of just skipping through most of the building process, I decided that whilst I'm building this little structure, I would give you guys a few fun facts. So, first off, walking the plank is one of the most commonly known things about pirates, but this might have just been all our imagination, as there is a little evidence that this ever happened. The truth is a little bit worse, actually, as pirates did tend to take their prisoners and do something known as keel hauling. I think I'm saying that wrong, but keel hauling was a form of torture where they took the prisoners and tied them to the back of their ships and, well, they kind of just dragged them through the water, and that is horrifying to know. Much worse, in my opinion, than just walking the plank. And if you were lucky on the day, the pirates would take pity on you and instead just maroon you on a deserted island. Yeah, pirates were brutal. They were brutal. That one was a not so fun fact, but I thought it was interesting when I read on that. Another thing that I found interesting was that pirates barely ever buried their treasure. In fact, there was only one pirate on record who ever buried their treasure. He kind of used it as a bargaining chip to clear his name. However, one of his own men dug up that treasure and used it as evidence against him. And that pirate was then found guilty of piracy and hanged. Again, not so fun fact, but I found it interesting as well. The old piratey days were definitely filled with much more horrors than we once probably realized. But we might get to some more pirate facts later on. For now, at the end of day 57, I was finally done building my new storage room. It wasn't my favorite build, but you know what? We're just gonna skip over that and just look at the rest of this build and realize that everything else is really pretty, so this one doesn't really have to be. But day 58, I did forget to record this day, but I pretty much could not find my boat. I don't know what happened with it, so I'm gonna have to rebuild a new boat, and I'm so sad about this as I've lost all of the loot on my boat, and I was hoping that it would just randomly reappear, which was wishful thinking. However, I did get these 2 llamas that I decided to build a little space for them. So I made them these 2 little areas, which I am currently still building. So this is pretty much where we're at this point. So day 59, I continue building up these little stalls for my llamas because that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted them to look like little market stalls. So I did the roof and everything else and started decorating around it a little bit. it, and it looked so cute. It's exactly what I wanted for this area. Cute little piratey market stalls manned by my llamas, because that makes the most sense in my pirate Minecraft world. Another fun fact, pirates never used llamas as stall owners. I don't know if I should clarify this, but just in case. I also decided to add a little pathway as well that would lead to my llama's little stalls, and it looked so cute. This whole area is starting to come together so nicely, and at this time I also decided it would be a good time to actually lead my llamas into their little stalls, which did take a little bit of effort and work on my part, but I got them in there okay, and I decided to, during this night, tame my llamas because I didn't want them to despawn. And another reason that I decided to do this during the night instead of just in the daytime being safe is because I read up a little bit on my turtles, and I found out that they had a much better time hatching during the night. And you know, I've been out here going to bed every single night as soon as the sun sets. You also have to be in the same area within a certain radius to them, so that is exactly what I wanted to do. And this night I turned to find a little speck of green, which was one of my turtles. They finally hatched. I was so excited about this. I could not even explain to you the happiness that I felt because of this tiny little green speck in my cage thing. My excitement quickly faded though, as a zombie immediately tried to eat us, but luckily we were safe in our little box. Today, on day 60, I remembered about the farmer that was stuck in the little cage near some pillagers, and I thought he would be the perfect person to manage my llama stalls. So I went to save him. Because like I said, llamas didn't really manage the stalls back in the olden days, so we need a caretaker for my little llamas. And it's safe to say that I was very ill prepared for this journey, because I made my way over there, decided that, you know, I would fight this man, and I died. To give myself some grace, I'm going to say that I lagged. However, I had to get my items back either way. So I crafted a new boat and I went back to the island as quickly as I could, grabbing everything that I had and coming up with a new strategy, because this one, running in, guns blazing, obviously was not going to work. So my game plan was going to be to quickly run up to the villager, grab my boat out in front of him, break the fence, and have my little guy jump into the boat. Which, it worked. It may have been the cowardly pirate way, but it worked nonetheless. I got my little guy and we were out of there. We skedaddled all the way back home. After an extreme struggle, I got the villager out of the boat and into the pen just for him to run right out again and into my house, which made it so much more difficult to get him into the pen. It took quite a while and it was honestly such a struggle. But eventually, I finally got him in. Just as night had fallen, I gave him a bed and made sure that there was no way for him to get out again. Yes, he is now a pirate prisoner. But that's okay, in my eyes, he's just a jolly good fellow pirate. Totally not keeping him there, enclosed forever. I finally finished everything for the little marketplace, and when I turned around, I saw something green once again and noticed that not only did my other egg hatch, my little baby turtle was now big. I definitely wanted the beach to look a lot better for them, as this was going to be their new forever home. So I decided that that was what I was going to do. So I went down into my little mining area to get some stone because I wanted to make a few boulders around the beach, and then I I decided to start decorating the market space a little bit more with a few furniture and stuff. Just adding a few knickknacks here and there, a few potion bottles, a few lamps and whatnot just scattered around the place to make it look a little bit more lively. And then day 62, I went along and started adding the boulders along the beach, and this was perfect. I added some cobblestone, some normal stone, and then I took some of my stone to craft a few buttons, which was going to replicate a few pebbles scattered all over the beach. And this turned out exactly how I wanted it to, but it was missing just a little something, which was foliage. I want to add leaves everywhere, always, so of course I had to get a few of my leaves and add those all over the beach as well. And also a bit of those like mangrove wood things, I don't know what you call them, but they look almost like roots in the ocean, which was also a lot of fun. When I was finally done, both turtles had finally grown up, and I thought it was time to set them free. So I went to do exactly that, breaking down the little enclosure that I had set up for them. And this was exactly what I wanted, a nice beach for them to roam the oceans and come back home whenever they felt like it. It felt so good to see them going into the water and sitting on the beach and just living their best turtle lives. I waited so long for these little guys to grow up, and this was so rewarding. It was exactly what I had wanted. I absolutely love my little babies, and I just had to give them some cute little names. And I had decided to name one of the turtles Bubbles and the other turtle is Bolt. I started off the morning of day 63 just swimming around with the turtles a bit, looking at them and just admiring how nice it was to finally see them swimming around and not just be little eggs anymore. The rest of this day was pretty much just spent up gathering a few materials to plant some more trees, as I realized that I would need a new pirate ship soon. Because, you know, it didn't seem like mine was going to magically reappear anytime soon. Once I had all my trees planted, I decided it would be a nice idea to let George meet my baby turtles, Bubbles and Bolt. Granted, only Bubbles was on the beach at this time, but I think that George and Bubbles really hit it off. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think they will be the bestest of best friends? Because I certainly do. Day 64 was entirely just spent chopping wood. So here is all of that sped up whilst I give you guys yet another fun fact about pirates. So as we all know, pirates loved wearing some eye patches, but these were sometimes worn for practical reasons, because pirates would keep one eye accustomed to the darkness so that they could always see well when going below deck. And I thought this was really interesting because I always just assumed that pirates wore these because of some sort of an injury, and they probably did at some point, but sometimes it was more just for practical reasons, which is a lot of fun as well. The next day I got another llama and added him to the stall too. Spoiler alert, he's gonna despawn at some point, but we're not gonna talk about that because somebody just forgot to tame him. Couldn't be me. But the rest of this day was also just spent getting more wood. And then finally, day 66, I chopped up the final few trees, making sure to clean up the area as I was finished. Then I went to gather all of the wood that I had to make a few materials, because the next day I was going to start building my new ship. And for the next few days, days 67 to 71 was all just spent building the ship. And I didn't want the ship to be too big, as the last one wasn't really big either. And again, I'm just one pirate living alone. I do not need a ginormous ship to keep me company or anything like that. However, I did want to make this one a little bit bigger than the previous one. As you know, I'm building a new one. I might as well make it a slight upgrade to the previous one. So again, instead of just skipping over most of this process, we're gonna learn a bit more about pirates. I know this past few minutes have pretty much been pirate facts, but I like them. I think it's fun teaching you guys a little bit more about pirates while also learning more about them myself. And something I have always loved about pirates is the fact that they kept parrots. And I am not gonna be the one to burst anyone's bubble by saying that pirates didn't keep parrots, because yes, it wasn't as widespread as depicted in popular culture. They did still keep parrots. Not all of them, but there were some of them who kept some parrots, and that makes me happy. That makes me smile, okay? Knowing that these ruffians and these delinquents, they kept parrots. It makes me happy, okay? Something that my girly pops would probably be very happy to hear is that there was actually women pirates. It wasn't just only men who were pirates, and some women even disguised themselves as men to join these pirate crews, which honestly, what a baddie, could you imagine? And our last fact for now was that a lot of pirates were actually former merchant sailors or even Navy seamen, and I think it was because a lot of these pirates often enjoyed better lives than the people who were working on the merchant vessels or the navy ships, which I find interesting as well, because you wouldn't expect that. You wouldn't expect these sea ruffians and stuff to live a better life than navy men and merchants. So another little fun fact for y'all. These, luckily, in my opinion, were much more fun facts than the previous few, so, I apologize for those. But I still think it's fun to know whether the fact is not so fun or whether the fact is fun. Pirates were interesting. I really like them, besides the more gruesome parts about it, but we're just gonna kind of skip over that. Day 72, I decided to make some more floaches, which I then went ahead and added onto this ship. This meant that I could finally turn this into a functioning ship. So that's exactly what I went to do. I went up to my wheel and I turned it into a finally functioning ship, which I did kind of forget to record, but I also added a few more decor like trapdoors and leaves to this ship. And I spent a really long time adding a lot of decor to this ship, which all disappeared the moment that I turned it into a functioning ship, which made me extremely sad and maybe even slightly delusional, because I thought it would be just as easy to put it all back. But I spent day 73 to 74 all just decorating the ship again. We're just gonna skip over the again part, but again, I ended off the day, however, taking a nice long look at my brand new ship, which personally, I think it turned out really, really cute. Better than the previous one, I would say. I would like to think that my ship building skills had improved. Maybe not the best, but hopefully in the future we can do another series where I would have to build a ship or two, and they could look fantastical. I don't know, maybe. Day 75. 3/4 of a way through, we only have a quarter left to go. I started this day off by clearing my inventory and then getting all of my wheat and replanting them. I also chopped down the last of the trees I had here and also put all of the wood away for that. And when I was done with all of that shenanigans, the necessary things to clean up my server, I wanted to see if my villager had any good trades. So I stood there for a while, breaking and replacing the little barrel that I had placed in there. And after a bunch of trying to see if I could find any trades that I liked, I decided to give up and just use one that would be the most useful, which was the trade for buckets of fish, because this way I pretty much get buckets for free. Not for free, but semi-free. I don't But I just took the cheapest one and got myself 3 buckets of fish. On this day, I of course had to make a little fish pond for the new fishies that I had gotten from my villager. So that is exactly what I set off to do. I went and I gathered up a bunch of dirt and sand, and I started to block off a small section of this water area which we had in the back of like our cows. And this is where I was gonna have my very small little pond for my 3 fishies. We do not have a lot of them, so I wasn't gonna make like a ginormous place for them. However, I did also decide to block off a lot of the other water as well. I just feel like it's gonna make it look a lot better if there's just the one pond and then no water in the very same vicinity. I also decided that I was going to go ahead and name my fish whilst they were in the bucket, because that's the easiest way to do it without using like a name tag or anything like that. So I decided to name the first fishy Cheese, and then my other fishy is going to be Butter. And well, I was gonna go ahead and name another one, but my anvil broke. So we were kind of stuck with just 2 fishies having names, but we can use our imagination a little bit. The other one was going to be Milk, okay? So we have Cheese, Butter, and Milk. I then went ahead and added all of them into their new little pond, and I absolutely love this, but I did go ahead and went straight to bed afterward. Day 77 was simply just spent decorating the pond area. So I went on adding some bone meal to the bottom of like the little pond, which then grew a bunch of seagrass, which looked so cute, as well as adding a few sea pickles just here and there for not only a little light source but also just a little extra in the water. I also decided to plant a few sugarcane around, as well as a bit of cabbage. I know that is so random. I went on to plant a few trees and then made some boulders on the beach side, and I don't know, I feel like this just adds a bunch to the area, even if it isn't anything like crazy. And then that was pretty much this area completed. Now I just had to wait for everything to grow. Day 78, I figured it could be fun to try and breed up my turtles. So I dove down into the water, I took my shears, and I got 2 pieces of seagrass, coming up immediately to try and breed my turtles. And I get that turtles are slow, but my goodness, this took forever. They took a while to get to each other, and then Bubbles took her sweet time digging in the sand. I stood there for a while. I was standing, staring at her for a while. I was not expecting it to take this long for her to lay her eggs, so instead I left Bubbles be and went to name my llamas, because I wanted to do this a while ago, but I completely forgot about that. So I decided to name this when llama Honey, and this little llama over here is going to be Bear. So we have Honey and Bear. I love that so much. And when I turned around, I saw that she had done it. There was eggs. Finally. Oh my days. But this is when I very sadly realized that I had no way to collect them without Silk Touch. And given that I had died not too long ago, there was just no way for me to enchant anything, nonetheless get Silk Touch. In my sadness, I went to seek comfort from my fish, only to notice that there was only 2 left. Milk was gone. Milk had despawned, never to be seen again. So the next day, I decided that I couldn't be a pirate if I didn't have a parrot. And yes, I did say that a fun fact is that not all pirates had parrots, but I wanted a parrot. So I set off into the jungle trying to see if I could find one. I took my seeds right along with me, trekked through trees, through leaves, through it was just a bunch of trees and leaves, pretty much. That's pretty much all. Okay. But I had no luck. I couldn't see or hear any parrots in the area. However, I did come across the cutest little red panda. I ran right back home to read up on them, but I couldn't find anything in my little zoo book thing. So I wanted to try my luck with some bamboo, so I took that, ran straight back, and she was sleeping. All this time, she was just sleeping. I stood there, I tried to encourage her to eat the bamboo. I tried to do anything and everything. My girl was still asleep. Like, she would not budge. I stood there the entire day waiting for her to wake up, and well, she just didn't. She just kept on sleeping, so I went back home and I went to bed. My search, however, was not over. I still wanted to see if I can tame this panda as well as find a parrot. So I went back. The jungle has not seen the last of me today, okay? The panda situation was not looking great, given that little buddy was still asleep the next day. And well, the parrot situation was also not going great, as I was running around this entire jungle and I did not find a single parrot. I did, however, stumble across the coolest horse that I have ever seen in my entire Minecraft life. I didn't even know that horses spawned in the jungle, so I was incredibly surprised and happy to see this horse, and I immediately had to run home and get my lead to lead him home because I didn't have a saddle. So I took him by the lead and led him all the way home, which he looked a little bit silly doing this, but it is okay. But look at how beautiful he is. I decided to name him Ash because it looks like there's little ash particles falling from his body, and that is so cute. Like, look at me on my horsey. Oh my goodness, this is the best day of my life. Day 81, I 1000% need a saddle now, so I'm going to spend this entire day trying to catch fish, aka get lucky and catch a saddle. I said hello to Ash and went down to the beach side by side to Bubbles and Bolt as I then started fishing. Things were not looking great as I had only been catching fish this entire time. Like, who would have thought that fishing would cause me to catch fish? And by the time night has struck, I was not done yet. I was gonna catch more fish the next day, and that's exactly what I did on day 82. This day was entirely spent catching fish. The only interesting thing that I caught this day was a message in a bottle saying that they needed help and supplies, which was pretty fun to catch, and then also a name tag. I was determined to get this saddle, so yet again, day 83 was also just spent fishing. Though on this day, I decided that once I reach level 15, I was gonna go ahead and enchant my fishing rod. So I took my lapis, took my fishing rod, and I got Luck of the Sea 1, which isn't too bad, but yeah, it's all that I could get. So of course, I went back fishing again, and I didn't get lucky at all, but hopefully tomorrow I will, because tomorrow is the last day that I'm going to try to catch fish. So day 84 was another entire day simply spent fishing. I could complain about this, but it was actually quite relaxing, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take the win, especially given that this was really a very nice way to gain XP, and this led me to be able to enchant my pickaxe as well. And when I did, I got efficiency 2. Again, that's all I could get. Day 85, I decided that I wanted to lie to everybody and catch more fish because I was so determined to get this saddle. And it has been like, what, only 5 days at this point that I've been fishing. So, of course, on this day, I did not catch a saddle. I only got another name tag, which is good in itself, but I really wanted a saddle. Feeling sad, I decided to take this in a new direction, given that I could not give my baby Ash a saddle, so instead, I'm going to give him a stable. So that's what I was going to do on day 86. However, I kind of being the amazingly talented and beautiful person that I am, forgot to record this day, as well as day 87, but I mean, but on this day I did decide to enchant 2 axes and merge them together, giving me efficiency 4 and fortune 1. Of course, also starting to build a stable, which we won't be seeing, but this is what it pretty much looks like at this point. On day 88, this is when I finally realized that I had forgotten to record the other 2 days, and you know, half of the build was already done. In fact, more than half of the build, let's be real. So on this day, I only added in a new little pathway to the stable, which is gonna make it a bit easier to traverse this area. And then I decided to chop down this tree because I needed some mangrove wood. Day 89, I finished up a few last decorations around the stable, and then I decided to move in Ash. It was time for my baby to come home, and this is when I realized that, you know, maybe it was just a little bit too small for the horse, but it's okay if we do get a saddle. I will take Ash on a lot of runs. But yeah, I do need kind of a saddle for that. So. But I also started on a small little area for a little wheat field because I do want a way to feed myself and my animals still. So I wanted a wheat field because I had destroyed mine to make space for this stable. It got dark pretty fast, so I was not finished, but I did go to bed. And then day 90, I continued with my little wheat field area, finishing that up completely and deciding to add a little decor around this area as well. Just simple things like filling in the little pathway in the middle of the field, as well as some more boulders on the side of the beach. This time just cobblestone, as I was not bothered to smelt any of this, and I don't think I had any more tuff left. And of course, as always, the mangrove roots and some leaves, because you know I love those. And then day 91. Since we are now only 10 days away from 100 days, I wanted to go and set sails again. You know, take my ship into the deep oceans and explore a bunch. So I went ahead and said goodbye to Ash and also checked out the area because I worked really hard on it and I wanted to make sure that I still liked it the next day. But anyway, I then went ahead and got onto my ship. I got behind the wheel, and this is when I realized that the ship would not move. No matter what I did, I shifted, re-entered the wheel. I did anything and everything I could think of in the moment, and the ship just would not move. It did not want to budge no matter what. It was staying in that one singular place. My only guess is that somehow the mod that I have been using for this is broken now all of a sudden, or something is conflicting. So there's just no way for me to set sails again. Our pirate days at sea are over. So once again, I decided to wallow in my sadness for the rest of the day and catch fish, trying yet again to get a saddle that I'm just never gonna get at this point. Oh my days. Because yeah, spoiler alert, we didn't catch the saddle this day either. Day 92 was a new day, a new me. I was no longer the same person that I was yesterday, okay? And this is a pirate 100 days. I wasn't gonna let the broken mud stop me, so I crafted myself a little jungle boat. We were going to go into the oceans, even if it meant going on this tiny little boat. And I actually had a mission. I wanted to see if I could find sheep. So as soon as I placed down my little boat and I went into the water, I saw something and I was curious. So of course I went closer and saw that it was a chicken. Of course I had to get my lead and guide little buddy all the way back home with me because he's gonna be my new chicken friend. His name is Gumdrop, of course. But after I had safely placed him into my home, I got back onto my little boat and we were back into the waters, sailing and, just trying to spot a few sheep. And well, eventually I did come across some, luckily. They were in this cute little area with a bunch of little trees and a tiny little spider, which was actually really cute, but also really scary at the same time. I was so unsure of this little guy. I was really scared, okay? But it's okay. I took my shears and I got some wool because that is the main reason that I wanted to find these sheep. So I got my wool and wanted to see if I can explore a little bit more of this plains area, but there were pillagers and one of them saw me and they started chasing me down. I ran away so fast because, well, as you guys could tell with my previous death, pirates and pillagers do not mix well. So I just decided to go back home again for the day. Entering my home, seeing Gumdrop just, I don't know, spinning the whole time, having his own little private disco or something. I have no idea. But this is when I realized that I needed more flowers for my wool because I wanted to make carpet. So I set off to go and find that, but it did get dark really quickly, so I just slept somewhere random. I don't even know where this is. But on day 93, I went back to that same area where the sheep were and quickly got more of each of the flowers that I needed and went straight back home after. When I reached my cozy little place, I went and made both of the little carpets that I needed, one yellow and one red. I then obviously went ahead and gave this to my llamas. Yes, I did set off on a tiny boat to get carpet for my llamas. It only makes sense. But I mean, just look at them. They look absolutely lovely. It does kind of give McDonald's, but it also kind of gives Gryffindor and Hufflepuff, so take that as you will. But my little adventure was not done yet, as I had decided that I was going to fulfill my mission of getting myself a parrot no matter what. The only thing is that it's not going to actually be a parrot, as if you can remember a little while back, I had learned more about crows and really wanted one. So I was going to do that. I was going to see if I can find myself a crow. I needed pumpkin seeds because after I had lost my first ship, I had also lost the pumpkin seeds that I had on it. I set my sails. Well, technically we don't have sails, but we're just gonna imagine that I have some, okay? But anyway, this was so much scarier. Sailing on the open oceans with this tiny little boat is so much more horrifying than in my big ship. This really triggered my thalassophobia a lot more. I did, however, find a ship that I had not yet looted, so I went straight to do that. Of course, after looting this entire ship of everything that they had, I also slept in their beds because because I'm a pirate. I don't care. And the next day, I was just traveling along the shore side to see if maybe I can spot a pumpkin from my boat, but I wasn't so lucky. It was really difficult to see pretty much anything at this point because I was so scared. And I had a reason to be, because not too long later I was attacked. These two fish just started chasing me out of nowhere and I was so scared. I made the quick choice to just jump out of my boat onto land, which was the right choice, I would say, because these little devils were so fast. They tried killing me still even on land, so I had to kill them myself because, you know, if you don't kill, you get killed. And it turns out that they were shark drakes. I was horrified, so I decided to set off on foot into this random plains area. And luckily enough, there was a savanna. And I know that pumpkins can spawn in the savanna. So I decided to just take a little look-see around and see if I can find some. And luckily, I finally found what I have been looking for this entire time. So I gathered up my little pumpkins and went back to see if I can sail home. Which of course is going to be just as scary as sailing all the way back here. So I got into my little boat and started heading back when all of a sudden I saw a crow. This is what I've been looking for. So I quickly turned some of the pumpkins into seeds and turned around just to see that he was gone. I don't know where he went. I tried to look around a little bit, tried to see if I can find him. And, well, yet again, I got chased. These stupid little shark drakes they don't want to leave me alone. So I made my way back to the same shore again, and I killed them, of course, before just going to sleep. And day 95, I finally started heading back without any trouble whatsoever. But then I spotted another crow. And you know, of course, this is what I wanted. So I went to see if I can tame him. I made my way to shore and got stung a few times by some jellyfish. But you know what, that's okay. I just wanted my crow. So I ran up to him and started throwing around a few seeds. Little buddy was not having it for a while. He was flying around, but eventually he started eating the seeds one after the other until he was tamed. And I was so excited about this. I couldn't believe that I finally had the crow that I've been wanting this entire time. Just look at my little baby on my shoulder, but it's okay. We were gonna go home now because I was so scared that the crow was just gonna fly away into nothing and nowhere again. So I got into my boat and we made it all the way back home. Luckily, we were pretty close, but I already had a name in mind for this crow. I decided to place him in my bedroom on a little chest right next to George so they could be the bestest of friends. And I went down to take a little name tag and officially name him. And his name is Parrot. I know, I'm so creative, right? So now we finally have our quote-unquote parrot that we need to be a pirate. I then just spent the rest of this day fishing, still trying to get that saddle. We didn't. Day 96, I wanted to go and see if I could find the red panda from a few days ago to see if maybe this time she's awake. And luckily enough, she was still there, but unluckily, she was still sleeping. But I've had enough. It was time. So I took out my lead and I put it on her and I just started taking her home with me. She was just going along with it until eventually she did wake up and I gave her some bamboo. This is also when I realized that this is not going to tame her. This is just to breed. So I just put her on the lead again and took her home with me, placing her near my cows. This is where she's gonna be forever now. Forever and ever, just on a lead near my cows. I'm obviously joking. I'm going to make a little space for her eventually because I don't want to do that right now. Because I wanted to see if maybe I could find a little friend for her. So I made my way through the jungle trying to see if maybe there was another one anywhere, when all of a sudden I came upon this blue little bird. Curious, I threw the seeds I had, immediately seeing if she would want them, and luckily, she ate them. She sang this lovely little song, and I threw pretty much almost all of my seeds to her afterward, just to hear this cute little song over and over. This is when I realized that not only was she singing this nice little song, she was also showing me where all of the hostile mobs near me were. It was honestly quite scary to see, but this was also the moment that I realized I had to take this bird home with me. So of course, I went ahead and led her all the way into my house. As for names, I decided to name the red panda. We are going to be naming her Sugar. And this bird is going to be Siren, because the song is so crazy, because it shows me all of the demons nearby. We do not have many days left before we hit 100 days, so I wanted to spend the next few days just building up a little space for my red panda. So I went to gather up a bunch of materials that I thought I could need for this, because, you know, I didn't want her to live stuck to a fence for the rest of her life on a leash. So I set off to this little space near my new stable area, and we started building. It was just gonna be a simple little space for this, but of course I wanted to give you guys some more fun facts whilst doing this. I first off want to start with a few fun facts about red pandas, because we are building an enclosure, or well, a little den house thing for my red panda. So first off, I thought it was really fun to know that red pandas are actually the first panda that was discovered nearly 50 years before the giant panda was discovered. And the guy, Frederick Cuvier, I don't know if that's right, but I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name again. He said that red pandas were the most beautiful animal that he had ever seen. And I can agree, they're so cute. Another fun little fact about them is that even though they are named red pandas, they are not related to giant pandas at all. The name might lead you to believe that, but they are actually most closely related to raccoons. And recent genetic research also associates them with weasels, otters, and wolverines. And then my last fun fact for now is going to be another pirate fact, and this is that Blackbeard set his own beard on fire. He was one of the most feared pirates of all time, and before capturing a ship, he would use hemp and put it into his beard and then set it on fire. He did this just to strike fear into the other pirate crew. That is insane. Like, bro was the OG. That's so crazy. I couldn't even. But that is all of the little facts that I have for you guys for now. Day 98, I continued on the decoration for my little red panda pen, just adding some bone meal and stuff, and then going to chop down this big mangrove tree, as it wasn't really fitting the aesthetic I wanted. And I also wanted to collect some moss as well, some mossy carpet. So after cutting it down, I added in the very last few details to my pen, which was the mossy carpet, as well as some vines and stuff. But that was not the last details for this little pen, as I also wanted to just quickly fill in another pathway to this pen, because again, it's just gonna make it look a little bit cuter and I would say easier to traverse, but the ground was even anyway, so. But that was pretty much everything for day 98, so we're now on day 99. I moved Sugar into her pen and she was, as always, fast asleep, so it took a little while to try to navigate her all the way there. I had to literally nudge her into the pen, but finally she was in there, and I don't know, maybe it was because she was asleep, but she looked a little bit lonely, so I went to grab her a little crab friend. It might be an really odd friend combo, but I don't know, I feel like they could be real good buddies, okay? And once I got the little crab into the pen as well, I decided that we were just gonna name this crab Patty. Again, I know, I'm so creative. And then the rest of this day, I just spent it fishing one last time trying to get the saddle. I even made a new iron rod and went to it again. And as you might expect, I was not lucky enough to get one on day 99. I did, however, have a little theory that maybe Sugar was not lazy and just sleeping all day for funsies. She was actually nocturnal. So I went to check that out, and guess who was awake and cute as ever? That's right, Sugar. She is indeed, maybe, nocturnal. I don't know enough about red pandas, but I'm assuming so. And just look at her. Look at how happy she and Patty is. They look like best friends already. I love them so much. But after checking on them, I went to bed, waking up on day 100. So I wanted to give you guys a little base tour. Starting off, we have the exterior of my house. It might be small and cozy and tiny and overgrown, but it's cute, okay? I quite like it. Coming into my house, we just have this little area which we've seen 1,000 times, as well as the upstairs, which also is just very simple and cute. And then, coming out of this door, we have my enchanting area. This is still absolutely just so beautiful to me. Coming up, we have my lookout point with my skulls to see many a ships. Oh yes, I've used this so many times. Definitely. Then coming back down again, we have my little storage area. Again, this is just a pretty simple space. We just have our chests and stuff in here. Already showed you guys this as well, but here it is in all of its glory. And then we just have these little stairs going to the back of my house where we can see the back of my house. And now for the ship that will not move, but it's okay because it is pretty. At the very least, if it's not gonna move, at least it can be pretty. So I cannot really complain because, you know, at least it's aesthetic. It fits the piratey vibe, and, you know, it gives me the sense that I might be a real pirate. Yes. This is the interior, though. Again, very simple, but it's cute. I like it. It would have been so nice to use when sailing around, but I never got to do that, unfortunately. As well as the llama market. I'm so glad I got them their carpets because it looks so much better with them like this than having the trader things. As well as our farmer guy, he's just gonna be Joe. Okay, we're just gonna call him Joe. I don't know. Then to the back of my little marketplace, we have the stable with Ash. Oh, I love Ash. I tried so hard to get him a saddle, which we just couldn't do. I'm so sad about that, but you know what? It's okay. Just look at him. Majestic as ever. Of course, to the back here, we have our little panda pen with Patty and Sugar being besties. Of course, Sugar was sleeping, but now we know that it's probably because she's nocturnal. Probably, maybe. And then I cannot forget about the little fishing pond area. This looks so much better with everything completely grown in. It was looking a little silly before, but now it is so cute. And of course, I had to say hello to my fishies, cheese and butter. Rest in peace, milk. And that is pretty much the entire base tour completed. I hope you guys like this as much as I do, because I think this turned out really, really nice. Like, this is exactly what I wanted for this. It might have even turned out better than I initially wanted. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, of course. And since it was the last day, I still had to play through it. I wasn't just gonna end halfway through the day, so I decided to go fishing, trying to get that saddle for the very, very, very last time. And the first thing that I caught was a Neptune's Bounty, which was this crazy looking chest with a bunch of random things inside, including a Neptunium sword, which genuinely, what the hell am I going to do with that? It's the last day. But anyway, I went on with fishing for the rest of this day, and I didn't find anything else that was interesting. And unfortunately, no saddle. So of course, I went to bed for the very last time on day 100. But that is everything for today. So thank you all so much for watching. If you guys want to see more of this, do let me know, because I would love to make more. It might just take a really long time. So let me know now, what type of 100 days did you guys want to see in the future? Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy today's video, of course, again, do remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will definitely see you all in another video. Goodbye, everybody.